The latest gacha obsession has been out for a while now, so let's take a look at how this game might be one of the best things that the company has put out so far. Hello and welcome to this entry of Zid's Backlog notebook. So why do so many people believe that Hoyoverse's newest game, Honkai Star Rail, is better than their most popular game to date, Genshin Impact? This could stem from many reasons, from feeling more forgiving right from the beginning of the game to it being more casual friendly. We will be mainly focusing on things that Honkai is doing right rather than what Genshin Impact is doing quote-unquote wrong. At the beginning of Honkai, you're given your main character, March 7th, and Danheng. These three characters feel great to play and they're actually very usable for most of the game. In addition to these characters, you will also get a few others that you can toss into a team, and one of them will be Natasha, and she's actually going to be most teams' main healer for a while. All of the 4-star characters in Honkai really feel like they can hold their own. There's yet to be a point to where I feel as though I need to get a 5-star on my team or else I won't be able to progress the story or beat bosses. When doing dailies, instead of having to traverse the map and spend time doing basic time-consuming tasks, Honkai has set up tasks to do that are intertwined with what the player will be doing anyway. Things like using a support character when using Trailblazer power, or using an enemy's weakness to break through times in a fight. Even something as simple as taking a picture in-game can get you those dailies. This feels a lot more manageable and more rewarding when you get Stellar Jade rather than just some experience points after each task. Just like in mini-games, there is a reputation system, and Honkai's is far easier to level up in compared to Genshin's. Where in Genshin, you need to do 3 tasks a week that break down to essentially find clues, hunt down a monster, and defeat the monster to gain points. Honkai just has you spending the regional currency to gain points that you will accumulate throughout just your playthrough. This is followed up by great rewards including Stellar Jade, normal rail passes, and even 4-star weapons. This means that Honkai players have to do far less work to get much better rewards. Of course, with this game being a gacha game, people will need to use pulls to get the characters that they want. Honkai gives characters plenty of free pulls just from playing the game. With 4 sets of free 10 pulls just for leveling up, plus each quest will give you Stellar Jade, this adds up pretty quickly just by going through the main story. Add on top of all those free pulls, there's a departure banner. This is the equivalent to the beginning player banner, and it's discounted by 20%. So for 10 pulls, you just need 8 rail passes. This banner guarantees a standard banner 5-star within the 50 pulls that are allowed on that specific banner. If you're wanting to get a 5-star weapon, but you don't want to pull on the weapon banner, like most people, you may be happy to hear that you can simply just buy a 5-star weapon with in-game currency. These can be found in the Herta shop, and you can get them just by playing through the simulated universe. And these are more broad in terms of characters that can use them, and they're more for general paths rather than select sets of characters. Or you can go to the normal shop screen and use Undying Starlight that you get for free just from pulling on any of the banners. And these are some of the best in-slot weapons for the characters featured on the light cones, but they also work well for any character on that given path. With the existence of 5-star weapons for characters, you would think that you would need one to get the most out of your character, right? Wrong. Honkai's 4-star weapons are actually very viable and easy to get. Playing Simulated Universe, Forgotten Hall, and doing the weekly bosses can get you some great 4-star weapons that can be considered better than the ones that you can pull from the gacha. You can also earn some as rewards for just playing the game, like through story quests or spending money in certain cities. For all light cones obtained through these methods mentioned before, you can also fully refine them as long as you have the currency to purchase more copies. With both Honkai and Genshin being available on mobile, this allows for a greater audience to experience the game, including people who might not want to grind out the best gear or be the best in the game. For those who just want to jump into the game for a few minutes a day, Honkai is a really good choice. Honkai's beginner tutorial explains everything that a player can do, and this includes the combat system. With only 3 options for each character, it might seem that the combat system is simple, but putting in the addition of the point system and the move order, and newer players might become confused. The explanation really tries to break it down into each function and make it really less daunting. Another thing that's useful for casual players is the inclusion of support units for things like Calyx battles. This means that you can swap out your 4th unit for a friend's unit that might be stronger or just better suited for that fight. Something that can be daunting to both new and experienced players are relics. Genshin had artifacts that would enhance some factor of a character, and Honkai has relics. They do the same thing, but the key difference is a single button, where in Genshin you would just put random artifacts on a character and hope for the best, or look up a guide online. You would really have no in-game assistance when it comes to builds. Honkai seems to have figured out that players were going in struggling and graciously included a recommended relics button that would put on the best options that were not currently being used by other characters. This is great for people who just don't know or are overwhelmed with relics, or for people who just pulled a new unit and want to use them but don't want to waste time going through all of their relics to find the best options. Not to say Genshin's characters have no personality, but I think many would agree that Honkai's characters feel more developed and real. From the introductions, you can easily see what type of character everyone is, and nobody feels like a typical trope or something just thrown in at the last minute. The fact that each character feels like a fleshed out person makes me want to invest more time and see them in the story more. Something that many people have agreed on is that Genshin's decision to have Paimon retell the traveler what just happened in a somewhat dumbed down way is completely unnecessary and becomes quite frustrating to the player over time. This made tasks take twice as long and offered nothing to really make it more bearable, like good jokes or new insight. The choice to not include anything like this in Honkai was an excellent choice and has saved players time and sanity. With the removal of a Paimon-esque character retelling the story and less fluff included in the overall dialogue, quests seem to take less time and are more fulfilling to complete. Not only do the main story quests move at a good pace, the side quests are actually doing an amazing job at telling deep stories about the random NPCs instead of throwing in random fetch tasks. And on top of that, some of the quests have you choosing dialogue that actually affects the outcome of the person that you're helping, and they really feel like thought out tasks instead of just random throwaways. Whenever a scene where the MC talks, it still throws me for a second because I'm not used to it yet. Having Trailblazers speak helps give them a personality, and I think the sassy and sarcastic lines that we get really help display the great humor in this game's writing. It makes the game feel fuller. Instead of just having the player sit and read the lines, they get to hear the voice and the inflections. This can also be said for the rest of the excellent voice acting that fills the rest of the game. One thing that many people hate are games that include a stamina bar. This is the most frustrating thing when you're trying to get across the map in an area that doesn't have teleport points of some sort. Honkai fixes both of these issues by having teleport points scattered throughout an area, and this is paired with the fact that there's no stamina consumption. You will unlock auto battling in about your first hour of play, and this is a lifesaver. Most of your random battles from enemies roaming around can be auto battled, as well as the Calyx battles. In addition to the auto battling of the Calyx, you can also set it up to use 60 Trailblazer power. This means that you can use all of your 180 Trailblaze power in under like 5 minutes. Trailblazer power, or resin for Genshin, is improved in many ways in Honkai. The cap is increased from that 160 to the 110, and the regeneration rate is 1 per 6 minutes compared to 8. Then realize when you are grinding materials for the Calyx, you only need to use 10 Trailblaze power instead of 20 resin. And add on top of that, you can auto up to 6 rounds in a row, and this game is so easy to farm. You will never have to worry about getting lost on your way to a boss in Honkai, because you can just teleport to any boss that you need. And this goes for most places. There's waypoints basically everywhere. One major thing that Honkai introduces is the ability to pick a main stat on a relic. This is a huge help for those who are grinding out a much needed piece. Ascension material is easier to obtain because instead of having to roam the world for materials like plants or ore, you can just farm enemy mobs to collect the needed material. And the best part is that the materials are standardized by path rather than unique to each character. Many features are accessible right within the menu, meaning that you will not need to go to specific locations in order to make food or craft materials. This is not only a time saver, but just a lot easier because you don't have to worry about fighting enemies, thinking you have enough material, and then going to the nearest town only to find out that you're off by 1 drop and you have to go back. So to wrap things up, I think Honkai just really seems to respect their players' time. They cut out a lot of unnecessary fluff, and it went even as far as to remove a quest line from the main story and move it to a side quest because it wasn't a necessity for the main plot. It proves that a lot of love went into Honkai Star Rail, and with all the information coming out about future content, it's clear that the Honkai series is Hoyoverse's favorite child, and will most likely see well-crafted patches in the future. Well, that's all from me for now. Until next time.